You have to get the knowledge base to take action. And what most people procrastinate on is that they say we don't have enough knowledge. So you have to have some form of knowledge to take action. But what ends up we use is that we call it analysis by paralysis, but really it's just a lack of confidence in your own skills and your ability.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Commercial Real Estate Blueprint. I have my good friend Gabe Rodarte here. He's a commercial real estate broker, commercial real estate investor, podcast host, and much more. Thanks for coming on the show today, Gabe.
Yes, for sure, man. It's good to be here.
I know.
Good to see you guys. We made it happen.
Yeah. We had a lot of back and forth. I messed up a couple times on scheduling, and then you had some stuff pop up, but we finally made it happen. So I'm glad we're here.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. So Gabe,
The universe definitely didn't want us to do this, I don't think.
Yeah. So Gabe's out of Texas. He's all over the commercial real estate world. Gabe, for the people who don't know you, just give us a little backstory on who you are, and then also how you got into the real estate game.
We do quite a few things. So we run a commercial real estate brokerage team. We're with EXP, but we run a group called the Commercial Professionals. So that's based out of Houston metro area. We do all over Texas, but really that's our core, is like the Houston market and North market. So we do that, and that's one of the key things we've been doing and really pushing forward lately. That's been fun. And then I got involved in real estate years ago, probably, I think it's 2012, 13. And I was already we had a couple construction companies. We had crews out there doing stuff. And then we got into doing some residential flips and residential properties. And that's really what made us. That's how we came out of where we were before, the industry we were before. And then by doing that, you do that for a while. And then we started growing into doing mobile home parks and some other smaller commercial stuff. And we call it commercial because it's not directly single family residential. And that was my bread and butter. We still have flips now. We still create notes now. We create notes on our parks. We create notes with single family. So we still do all of that stuff. And that's a whole branch of our companies. And and then we just moved there. We use the same skills, same model, all this stuff. We just moved it over to commercial. We're working on all types of stuff for commercial. We're kind of broad right now as far as what we do. We don't just focus on like multifamily or just industrial. We have some industrial flex we're working on. I'm doing some new build, about 4,000 square foot buildings that we're working on. And that's industrial new build in Houston area. And I think in your guys' market also, it's still needed. I mean, I go to some markets and they're just, rehabbing 40, 50, 60-year-old buildings. Houston Metro and where we are in the northern part, there's just a lot of growth still. And there's still a lot of land and possibilities, and everyone's coming here still. So there's definitely a need for more product to be on the market. So we're just doing that, and that's fun. We could go over that in a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. I'm a pretty busy schedule. Father, I got 3 kids, been married for 16 years, and it's go season.
That's awesome. And you were telling me too, you recently just started in the commercial brokerage world aren't you? You said you're a partner in a commercial brokerage now, correct? In Houston.
Yeah. So we're EXP, but so I have a skill set of marketing, and from doing, we used to do a ton of network marketing and networking. And so I run an event here that was called North Houston Real Estate Investors. And we'd put 300 people in a room and just get us all together and just have a good time. Well, out of building that network, which is huge, if you guys want to go into that, we can, but just building all of those relationships and just being consistent over the years, and then having the skill set of going in and creating operating systems and getting into CRMs and getting into how you get in front of people, and then really organizing and optimizing. I partnered with my buddy Adam, and he has a really good network, and he's done thousands of single family stuff. So on our single family side, I think we have 230 listings. On a resident or a commercial side, we have 72, something like that, active listings. So we're just getting started. I mean, really, it's been maybe 3 months of me coming on that's just tweaking out the back end system and getting things humming, and it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, me and you had a call a couple months ago, and you were telling me you were just getting started. So to have 72 listings already, that's impressive. I assume that's, part of your skill set of marketing. You've just taken that and applied it to brokerage.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. It's not that we've acquired all those in the last 3 months, but it's definitely something that we've compounded on. I mean, as you know, things sell and you need to keep on refilling the pipeline. And then it's just bringing on good team members that are helping out, that see the vision of what we're looking at accomplishing, and they can, push their career forward. And there's other opportunities very similar to what you guys have going on. And I kind of mimicked a little bit about what you have and what you shared with me, Graham. So it's been good.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So how, you said you started basically in single family, doing lots of flips, residential stuff, like a lot of the people who are listening, and also just a lot of people who get into real estate investing, they start in single family. So what made you want to take the jump from the single family stuff, because you're obviously successful in it, to the commercial real estate world?
Well, that's kind of the way that you go. I mean, there's a buddy of mine. He shares about having fast, medium, and slow money. And what happens if you're in the residential world, there's only so much you can acquire at one time when it comes to like rental properties and that slow, long-term residual money. And so you can do a bunch of those, and those do matter, but you're using really the same marketing skills and the same techniques and stuff you would be doing in commercial. So, and that's something that's when I figured that out, I started making that leap. I started just asking and being around, and we went to Commercial Academy, and I just started using these different tools and levers that I have in play. And then I started noticing my skill set in residential and what I learned and what I really enjoyed doing. I mean, we got guys on properties right now, and they communicate to me through video, and that's it. Like, I show up to the property very, very rarely. And I know I've been doing residential, and I've been in that world for 20 years, 15 years, something like that. I mean, it's a long time, long enough to know what happens and what cannot happen to a house. And so I'm not moved by it anymore. I'm not overly energized when it comes to something that blows up. We have one of our projects right now. We didn't know when we bought it, but there is probably now 40% of the house is new sticks, meaning new studs and everything. There's termites that went through the house. We didn't know it when we bought it, and my main guy, he goes, "Hey, Gabe, this is what's going on." And you do enough volume where you go, it's kind of like Sampson Street. Yeah, just like Sampson Street. Okay, let's just do the same thing. Okay, cool. And then move this, do this over here. Okay, show me a video when you guys are done. That's it. And so we've learned how to do that. And so I had this gap of time to advance and figure out what I wanted to do next. And I've always liked commercial. And so then I just started doing other stuff that's more, right? The more property. So mobile home park, there's more. We had a tiny home park. There's more, right? And so we're able to just scale. And then once I started figuring out, because I'm very more experiential type person, where I like to experience it. And then I'm like, oh, I definitely want more of that. And so we just started compounding and growing from there. And so, that's pretty much how the story goes from there, how we got into commercial. And then I realized that there's a whole nother world when I meet guys like you guys and City Plat and the other stuff, and just really seeing the industrial side, the retail side, the language changes, the people you work with change. So it's been really good.
That's awesome.
Gotcha. I'm kind of curious. So it sounds like you started in the wholesale flip, and then brokerage is kind of like something that you kind of added to the fire, and then you built a team around it. What was that point in your life where you're like, I need to get my brokerage license, and how has that changed like your strategy?
So I got my license, I think in 15 or 16, somewhere around there. I'm never good at any of that stuff, but back then I got my realtor license, and I was just listing properties, and I figured I'd get some overflow, what we call the exhaust fumes of what you're already doing, right? And so I did that for a long time. I mean, it wasn't that I was just going around putting my license on a friend's house or whatnot, or helping them buy a house. I just wasn't really good at all that world. So what I did was and this is something that's key for anyone who's listening, is that there's a book called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And I advise everybody to listen to it. It's something that the moment I started grabbing a hold of the concept of you can shoot for a target you can 2X your business this year, but it becomes very diluted, and the focus you think is like, okay, we're just going to 2X. But what ends up happening is if you miss, you only get like 1.5, right? You didn't really 2X. The other part that I noticed by just thinking I could just do simple things and just keep moving forward is that there's not really a huge urgency to collapse your time. And so there's a diluted focus in how you see the vision for your company or the vision for your business or your profit or how you're going to make stuff. And so there's less clarity. And so when I started really looking at stuff in a reverse way of like, what would be a 10X thing? Like, what would be something that would make me just transform? And so what I would do is that I would put out lists, and I still have lists now. I got a lot of lists. I use this little notepad now whenever I want to add people to my list, and I'll just write out. And I normally do it every Sunday now, where I'm just like, okay, who am I going to meet with this week that's going to really just launch me forward? And then you just write it out, or I did. And then I just start going down the list. And there's some of them that are on there like, oh, okay, this isn't too big of a stretch. Let me find someone else who's more, that I'm going to stretch into. It might be a person. It might be an industry. It might be a type of marketing. It might be something that you have to learn. It might be AI. It's something Graham and I have been talking about. So what happened was I started doing this thing, and I realized that I can do these incremental changes, but it's going to get me that same type of reward. And so I just started going and saying, what would be freaking crazy that a 38-year-old, 39-year-old with 3 kids would just look weird, right? And that time it was like, let's start doing more commercial. Now it just makes sense because everyone I know, all my best friends are in commercial. Like everybody I know is like a commercial people, but I chose to level up on purpose. I call it leveling up. People call it different things, but yeah, get the audio. If you don't like reading, it's a game changer.
It's funny you say that. I'm like a quarter of the way through that book on Audible right now. So
yeah,
it's so easy to get like caught up in 100 different things you got to get done. And we were just talking about this before the call, me and Jesse. It's like, which of these things actually moves the needle and which of them is just kind of like noise and distraction? It's so hard to like manage your time in that way. What, with you saying all that, what would you recommend somebody listening who maybe hasn't made any money, or maybe they're brand new in commercial, or they're brand new in real estate, let alone commercial real estate? Like, what would they focus on? Because some people don't, I'm not going to say they don't have the luxury of saying, oh, let me just jump to 10X. But if somebody's starting from like zero, like what would you recommend them doing? What would you recommend them focusing on?
Yeah. So, and this is more throughout the years because I used to do coaching. I used to do coaching for residential and help people move on. You have to get the knowledge base to take action. And what most people procrastinate on is that they say we don't have enough knowledge. So you have to have some form of knowledge to take action. But what ends up we use is that like this, we call it analysis by paralysis, but really it's just a lack of confidence in your own skills and your ability. Nowadays, in the world that we live now, the network world, the world of social media, I would definitely say find someone that you have seen do well, whether it's in a social media group or there's groups all over the place nowadays. Find something, find that avenue, what's it, Facebook or Instagram or these other different types of groups that you could be part of, and then pick somebody. Pick 5, write out your own list of 10 people that you want to connect with and just go down that list and say, okay, well, is this person open? You know what? They were, but they just took on 5 new students, or they just took on 3 new people, or they just don't have time, or maybe they're already at the place of luxury and they just don't want to do it. So what I did whenever I started was I found just a few key people and I just started bugging them. And I'm like, hey, can you tell me how this works? Can you tell me how this other stuff works? And I just kept on bugging and bugging. And it was annoying for them, but those guys are still my friends today. They're still, one of them still kind of like a mentor to me today in a lot of areas. And definitely he's grown up through commercial real estate and does all types of crazy stuff now. And so he's always been 5 steps ahead of me. So that relationship still happens. But that's probably number one. You have to find something in an avenue and a channel. And then it goes into skill set. And so then you go into what avenue? Residential. Okay. What are you planning on doing? Well, I need cash now. That's everybody. So you factor in, you got the stuff that you can happen quickly, the stuff that might take a little bit of time, which is normally flips, maybe a sub two. And then you have the long-term holds that you have to invest money into over time to keep that hold, which is mainly rental properties or B&Bs or something. And so if it's fast, if you have to get that revenue generating now, then be fully aware that that's where you are. It's just not for forever because it's going to stink. And you're going to do driving for dollars. You're going to be doing letters. You're going to be doing all types of stuff. You can be networking, and you're going to be in hustle mode for a season. And you just got to get your chops up. You got to get those reps. So that way you know. And then once that starts happening and you get those reps up, it depends on your skill level and what tools you have from the past, what tools you're willing to use right now and moving forward. Some of it has to do with confidence. If you're super confident, I've seen guys that just catapult in 2 years and they're just in a whole nother atmosphere. But they just have that confidence and that ability to do it. And even some ladies I know, man, they're just killing it. But and then after that, you're off on your own. So you don't need to have that same mentor all the time, Graham. And that's one of the things I've noticed is that like as you grow through, and I've seen people grow through, you don't have to have that same person. They're just helping you for that one step that you really need help with.
Yeah, no, that's great. You really helped me out a lot when we had that call, like a couple, I think it was like 4 months ago, when you were talking about having. Basically, I was telling you what I was doing in social media, and you're like, you've got to stop doing all that little stuff and hire somebody to do it. So since then, we've hired like a VA to do some of the podcast editing and stuff. And we were just talking about before this call how we need to hire, like, increase that VA's workload with shorts and other stuff, because I find myself doing those little things. But no, that's great advice. All that's great advice. That's really good.
Yeah, there's a guy that we both know. His name's Josh Zagowski. I always call him Zach. You know Josh? He's an amazing guy. He does familiar. The ERC. Amazing guy. Yeah. He's with the academy. And so he was telling me how he built that so quickly, that program, that government program. And he's like, I found my biggest weakness. And I go, I cannot grow. And this is on a timeline. Imagine all of us, like even me, I'm just thinking about now, if I put my dreams and goals on a timeline, that if I didn't do everything, then it will never happen. Like there's not like a repeat. It's not like I can redo it. It's not like it can happen again. Right. But if you don't go and acquire that property, or you don't learn the skill, you don't meet that person, then that timeline's done and you'll never have another opportunity to meet that person. Right. Well, if you do that, then you start going, I got to get really creative and really resourceful, which is time, energy, and money. All right. And so you're like, these are the core things that's in your life. And then you can have stuff like technology or connections or whatnot. But really, those are your issues that we can control. So you just go, okay, I don't have the time or energy or the skill set to do this one thing, video editing or whatever. Like I was amazed that your videos were so good and you were doing all of them. And I'm like, wow, I don't have the time to do that. I think you right around that time you had a baby, your third child, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm like, okay, ours is older. Like we're getting into the teenage years. So I know what happens next. Like I know the next season for you. And I'm like, man, you're not going to have that time. So one of the things that he was sharing was like who, not how, which is also within that group of books that you can get of like, who's going to help you level up? Who's going to help you take care of that thing? It doesn't have to be some mentor coach that you have to pay for. It could be a virtual assistant. It can be a normal assistant, or right here, normal meaning here, that's local in your backyard. You can have them working side by side. It could be a business partner. It could be any of those things. And so as we go about doing those things, I think that even for you, you're going to be super successful because you're putting this stuff into place of saying, okay, what's the next thing on the list that is time sucking, right? Because you have very limited time. And so, and then once you do that, you just write it out. And I think that people have a tough time with the whole virtual assistant thing. I'm noticing that a lot. And that's something that you grow into and that you learn how to do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and ties into one of the questions I had perfectly, like with when it comes to you. I mean, you've got a lot of things going on. You got real estate investing, you've got real estate brokerage, you've got your podcast, your flips, all that stuff. So like, what does your team look like? Like how do you level
Oh,
up and
shoot.
outsource all that stuff?
Yeah. So we have multiple teams.
Okay.
Every company has its own team, is its team structure, right? So my residential team, there's about 5 of us there. All right. And that's their own team structure. And they all have their different, like we have different chats going on for different stuff.
And do you use Slack for
that's
that?
one of the,
Just like real tangible info? Like how do you, what chats do you
we
use?
used to use Slack all the time. Then I realized that there's some skill sets that just have a hard time using Slack. And I just stopped using that. So I'm like, okay. Now we still have Slack for other stuff though. We use a lot lately. I've been using a lot of the Google Chat within one of our verticals, and that has been very helpful to learn. And I learned that through some podcasts. I'm like, you know what? Let me just try Google Chat, and you can create a lot of different things that are in there. So we've been utilizing that. And then we use a lot of WhatsApp, and we use just text groups, different type of text groups for different stuff. And then as far as our documentation, everything's on Loom. So we have Loom folders and Loom library. For those who don't know, it's an online video recorder. And so you just record it and then you label it whatever you want and you put it in the right folder. And that's key because that's how you scale the VAs, by the way, is that you want to record everything. And so like right now we have a VA we have a third one coming on for our CRM. In CRM, we have something like, let's just say we have 50,000 people that we need to connect with, right? And there's like a normal CRM that everyone runs into. There's some that are just scragglers. They left off. We haven't touched them in forever. So what I did was I just said, hey, go touch those. I want to see how you make it work. You're a pro at the CRM. Let me see you work it. Okay, that looks good. Then the next day, all I want is one task, do this one thing. Okay, next task, do this one thing. And then every task, as she gets better, we're recording it. Boom, boom, boom. And then at the end of the week, we can compile them all together and go, okay, this is the sequence. Take this out, take this in. Let's not do this anymore. And now that we know, how to take stuff out and how to put stuff in. And then now, if anything ever happens to her or she just doesn't work out or whatever, I can also just put it into the system, and it's easy plug and play. I got one main key assistant. He's been with me for about 8 years. And he's the go-to, like he knows where everything's at. And I think that everybody needs to have an assistant like that. Like everybody, they're effective. He's going to watch this video and he's going to help edit it for me. He's going to go through some other things and he's going to let me know. He's going to let me know what I said wrong. He's going to let me know, hey, Gabe, by the way, tuck your shirt in next time. He just knows because we just been around each other for so long.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny you say that because when we had that call, it was right around the time when Jesse was about to join me, and I filmed a bunch of Loom videos on brokerage stuff and sent them to Jesse, and I was like, "This is genius."
That's awesome.
And then like all these other people, like at the same time, City Plat hired like 3 or 4 new people, I think, and they were asking me questions. I was like, oh, I just filmed a Loom video on this for Jesse. Here it is. Watch this. And then they're like, oh, this is great. Did you make this for me? I was like, no, I filmed it for Jesse, but you can watch it too. And then I was messing with them. I was like, I'm going to start charging you guys for this stuff.
Yeah.
But really though, and then on the other side of it, like for me, like I was like, what was that thing? And so instead of bugging Graham, I can go back to that video and reference it. So it's a great reference tool as well.
Totally.
And just because I was new to the game, I didn't know, and it doesn't, it takes away like multiple different time frames from Graham to bug him, right? Or I can go back to the Loom video and just reference it instead of bothering him while he's underwriting, hanging out with his family, whatever, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And something you said about so that collapses time for multiple people, right? Mm-hmm. And so one time, I'll tell you guys this story. So, and I share this story a lot, is that, so we were on this mission trip and it was somewhere in South America, and we were digging wells. It was one of those well digging things for communities. And we're on the bus to the place, and one of the people on the bus was asking our main guide that was there. He's over everything. We're doing like 3 wells at one trip that we were at. So he's, you see him running around, he's getting all set up, and then like his heart just like, you could just see this guy get really like bright, because they go, hey, we're going through the town, and she goes, so how many people does this one well service? Right now, keep in mind it's water getting pumped out of the ground. And he goes, and he says, listen, you would think that it just services these people that are here, because that makes sense. He's like, but this well will service for a full 4 or 5 generations. So you don't know who's going to grow up and who's going to have their kids and their kids drinking out of the water, the fresh water out of this well. And that just stuck with me for years, because like, you just have to build a really good well system. And then you can just keep on pumping water anytime you need to. And if another person comes in, you go, hey, you know what? Let me show you where to go, right? Let me plug into our system and just watch some videos and other stuff. Everyone's used to that. And then you have the systems where you can, 2 or 3 times. I'm sure Jesse's probably done it before, where he's like 1.5 time video. Like, let me just watch through real quick, see where it's at. Okay, pause. You pause for a couple seconds. You're watching it. All that stuff did take Graham just really takes so much time, but he can't collapse, because then you can't time block. It's really inefficient of time blocking. So then you get thrown off your time frame, and now you can't accomplish your goals for the day, or Graham can't, because he got distracted. And so then that doesn't benefit Jesse, because Jesse can't move his ball down the field, right? Because the next question that Jesse has, Graham has to already be out there running it and making stuff happen for that next question. Well, if Jesse takes that time, Graham's not a step ahead. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I am
Can you talk to us?
Oh, go ahead, Jesse.
Sorry, go ahead, Graham.
No, you're good, man.
So tell us more about this time blocking thing. I'm not very familiar with the different time blocking things that you're referencing there.
Whenever you go into like time management courses or sales courses, there's 3 or 4 major things that they make sure you do. And back when they used to use paper all the time, before our time, they would say, touch every document once. So I have, I have an OM, right, that I'm looking at right now. I print it out. Okay, someone send it to me. I need to look at this once. Okay. If I look at it more than once before it exit my table, and I go, you know what, then that means that either it needs to be on the back burner and I'm really serious of thinking about buying this one, or this is something that I forgot to do or I didn't do, and now I'm just wasting my time and it's just leaving out there, right? And so what if this is a task, or what if this is your inbox? And the most successful people I've seen, they touch their inboxes once and then they just move it out, right? So if you're out there, and like what I see a lot of people do, including myself, I find definitely in the broker commercial world, is that, I haven't updated of all my emails that are on here, right? It gets updated, and you're doing something, you're grabbing your coffee or whatever, and you're looking at your phone, you click on it, oh, okay. And then you get a phone call, you forget to go back to that email. Mm-hmm. It's now 8:00 at night and you forgot to send that last text. And so that happens anyways, in general, like I've seen throughout just business, it's going to happen, but try to time block that moment of going, this is dedicated for me checking my emails. And I'm just going to go through it real quick. And then if you click on something, or if you do open it, you have to either put it back as unread before you're done, so that way it stays, blocked out there on your inbox, or you don't need it, so you swipe it out, you get it out of the way as fast as possible. And so when you're making calls, I still use this. I mean, I use this all the time. So this is just like a Pomodoro clock, what they call Pomodoro. This one has 4 times on it. I only use one, and it's normally in 25-minute segments. And I do my best to not get distracted during that time. And I just dedicate it towards whatever it might be. So if I'm going to be in my CRM and I'm going to go through some leads that came in and some other stuff, I'm dedicating this time towards that, right? Like I need to make sure that. Then I'm grabbing my notepad and I'm going, okay, what else do I need to do? Because as much as we all love CRMs, I still use stuff in writing. So to remind me, because I'm going to leave somewhere and I want to take it with me. So then I do that. I create a whole nother list. I have one list of contacts and one list of to-dos, or like just stuff that, oh man, you need to go do this to go do that. That's not contacting a person, right? If it's sending a document or sending something to somebody in the office, that's not really contacting, right? And then you go from there. And then what I would suggest that anybody do, it kind of goes back to that 10X, is make sure you have your list of the 5 attorneys you're going to get a hold of, the some mortgage brokers that you're going to get a hold of. You know, what's crazy is that I have a sign company that called our office looking for business, and I go, I'll call a couple sign companies, and I just like put it down on the list. Let me just call 2 or 3 sign companies, see what they're doing, see what's happening in the marketplace. So it could be anything that you can do, but you have to really dedicate your time towards it. And then once you do that, Jesse, one of the things I found out that's the biggest win is you go back. I track this, so I'll show you guys. I'm going to close it up, but it's on a notepad about this big. And every week I go through and I write out what are my top 20. But I know what that is because I have a track history of the whole year of what my top 20 was for last week and what I didn't do. And then me questioning, was it really my 20%? Like, how come I didn't get it done? And then I could go back through it. And then you schedule that for the beginning part of your week. And then that lays out your time blocking so you're not scattered going on a Monday, man, what do I need to do? You already have it set up.
Yeah, that's good. The program that I took, it was probably towards the beginning of the year. It's called Massimo, but it's a commercial real estate coaching program.
Yeah.
You're aware of it? Yeah. So,
well, I was asking you about that. Yeah. Like, hey, how'd you like it? I'm always interested in like new stuff new tools.
It's really good. One of the first things they do is have you like take an inventory of your time. So like they have you write out basically what you want to make or what you make, and then break it down into an hourly rate, and then write down every single thing you've done. You do that day and that week. And then you look back over it and say, okay, checking my inbox is a $10 an hour task. I need to hire that out. And then the second thing they do is make sure you time block. So like I have a nice, beautiful time block calendar. It's just a matter of actually sticking to it. That's the hard part. Like the discipline of like, okay, these 2 hours is going to be for cold calling. This 1 hour is going to be for, sending mailers. This one's going to be for shooting content. It's I stick to it loosely, but it's hard. Like the discipline of actually sticking to it is really hard. But yeah, that's all great information. Kind of switching gears. You mentioned a little bit about, what you guys have in your portfolio, but break us down what your commercial real estate portfolio looks like right now. What are you guys buying? What are you getting after?
Well, we sold a lot of our residential. We have some mobile home parks left. So I partnered. So another 10X thing is I partnered with the guy who had 15 parks. Well, 13 parks at the time. And then I was like number 14 and 15. So I got to see all of his operations. I got to see how everything worked out. What I liked, what I didn't like, what I could change. So that way, if I were to go off on my own, what can I do? And so that was, that would be in like basically a 20 units, a 20 space park there. Then a smaller 8-unit space. So very small stuff. We have a 60,000 square foot industrial warehouse that we're working on right now. And that's pretty cool. We're getting close on it. I'm closing on that. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun, long one to do. And we're coming in. We got seller financing on it. We got other creative debt on it that we're doing, which is always fun to do. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like everyone's asking for that now anyways, is what kind of creative debt can you do? We have some smaller multifamily stuff, not big stuff, like an 8-unit type stuff. And then we're doing this new build stuff. This is really interesting for me because it's in my field. It's industrial, like retail, industrial, flex type stuff, but it's in my field. I love it. I can totally see me doing a lot more of it. And now I'm just shopping for more land so we can do that. I got, we're able to do, that's on an 1.5 acres. We're able to do a lot of damage, like a lot of cool stuff. So I found another 5 acre that we're about to close on and just rinse and repeat. And then I have another one that is in, it's kind of a tougher area of town that I have to be in because it's more of like the city ordinance type stuff instead of the outside area of the county. So our counties are really easy to work with. When you get into the city, it's just really tough. So we might let that one go because of just how much brain damage we're going to get during that time frame. And I think that we can collapse time doing something out into the county more. Yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, we're not a huge, I'm not a huge acquisition guy right now. I've been spending ton of energy on building out the brokerage side of things in the last 3 months. So I can definitely feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you going to Cleveland or?
No, I want to. I still haven't joined it yet. I
Okay.
want to super badly, but it's kind of just like we're with all
Yeah.
the deals and stuff,
That's
and
my,
then
that's my time when I get re-energized and I'm like, okay, I got this one step done. Now let's work on to the next. So,
yeah,
um,
my goal.
yeah, we don't have all the pieces together. Like we're always growing. Right now we're working on some cool, we're in Houston. So there's a big group of people that are in oil and gas or engineering or medical. Um, so we get these unique contacts. And I think that you see that too, is we have these unique conversations with people who want to do more development and more stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I like the model that we've chose to do, is because of the contacts we have. And with my life experience and what we do, it's really not hard to raise capital to go do a deal. It's more of, let's make sure that it's a deal that we want. So yeah, so we have all that cool stuff going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's me and Jesse. One of our goals is to join next year, hopefully like Q1. But since I have a 4-month-old at home, I can't,
Oh my
can't be
gosh.
traveling and leaving my wife for 5 days at a time. Wouldn't want to do that to her. So, but next
Yeah.
year, hopefully, once he's a little older, I'm going to join.
That's a little bit about, or a lot about what we're doing. I think one of the key things for this market, and I actually was going to put a post out there, is just the power of pivoting and learning when to switch gears. Sometimes it's switching gears in the same lane that you're in and you're just taking it to the next level. Sometimes it's a full on pivot. And I know, like, you're just changing the structure of everything that you're doing. So, or you're just reinventing what you're doing, right? And you see that in a lot of older guys that have been around for a while in the industry. They're trying to redo what they're doing before. And I think you and I talked about that, Graham. So it's weird to see how this marketplace really plays out, and that's the fun part about doing all of this, is that it just never stops. You shouldn't stop growing; it's always a growth thing, and that's why we also love doing the podcast, because we're able to be in front of other people, able to help them grow and get out of their old season and grow into a new one. And yeah, and the partner I have on that, he knows everything about creative structure and creative financing, and um, he's been around for probably 35 years in the lending industry in general.
Wow. That's a perfect segue into what I was going to ask you. Tell us about why you decided to do a podcast. And then after that, we'll talk about your Facebook community, because I know that's a big deal too. But
Yeah, the podcast came out of, actually, I was part of a mastermind in 2020 downturn. I knew I needed new tools. I had no clue about, let's see, 2020. Yeah, I wasn't the best commercial person. I didn't know how a lot of things worked in the commercial world. I just knew how to acquire. And so I started I went into a podcast, some friends of mine, and I met with some other guys, and this podcast created out of 4 guys. We all lived in different parts of the country, and we met each other once, and we would just it would almost be like you and me. I met you one time, I think, or maybe twice, and you and me doing a podcast every week, right? And so we just started doing it every week. It's still kind of that weird lag time, and so we were just sharing and giving information of how we can help other people. And then that got birthed into, I don't know if you've ever met Marty, but Marty he's in upstate New York. They do amazing suplex properties. Great friends of mine. I just spoke to him the other day, and he's doing great. And he created his own podcast. And then Mark and he's out of, I guess, East Florida, so Boca or South Florida, Boca area. And so now we have this thing called the Seller Financing Homes, which is a Facebook group. We have Creative Finance, which is a Facebook group. We just have all these different connections and different people. That group has, I think, 130,000 members, maybe has more now. And Mark's just crushing it. I talk to him all the time through WhatsApp. Like I talk to him multiple times. We just, communicate, and he's just telling me, hey, what else he's got going on. I'm just looking at my other screen, and we have a full conversation this morning that was just looks like chaos, but it was basically sharing, okay, we got this multifamily going on over here. We got the mobile home park group over here, had that going on. And all of it is based around creative finance, really, of doing different debt structures and how to take over properties, and how to talk to sellers, and what's the conversation we're having with those type of people, and what's the burn factor, what's their need, what are they looking to accomplish, and all those things I think people miss. So we try to talk about all of that.
How have you seen the podcast impact your business? I mean, I get you have so many businesses, but how have you seen it impact it?
Yeah, I think that's why I'm doing why I took on this brokerage, because I have a network of people and I have a network of friends that see me. I don't work as hard as I used to in the podcast because it's somewhat established. And then we made a decision years ago. Probably a year ago now. We made a decision like, hey, are we going to go after views? Are we going to go after try to compete with some of these other people? Like, what are we going after? And, the truth is most people stop their podcast. I think, what is it, after 5 shows or something?
Something like that. It's a very small number.
Yeah. They don't get past 5 shows. And then there's a bigger portion that doesn't get past 22 or 23 shows. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what we're at now, 140, 150 shows. I mean, every week we put something out. So
that's awesome.
And then we do our different stuff. So Mark has his own specific things, and then we'll come together. We're supposed to do one tomorrow with just him and I, and kind of just refresh pretty much once a month type deal. What you've been working on, what's been working for you, what's happening in the market. And then he has his group of guys that he really connects with that I get to share off of. And then I have my guys that I get to share with him. And then locally, it depends what kind of industry you're in, right? I mean, if you're in a residential market, you want to be the person in that area where people can funnel you deals, right? That's really the key. If you're a commercial, you could do commercial all over the states easily. Residential, you can too, but it's just simpler to do. You just hear a lot more in the commercial world. But commercial, I wanted that also. And I knew I had a network. So I was like, that's one of the reasons why I partnered with my partner right now on the commercial side, the commercial brokerage, because I have this other network and he had a network. And I'm like, man, if we were to join forces, and we're seeing returns now that are pretty amazing. I mean, so everybody needs to really get their name out there somehow. There's nobody I know. Well, there might be a few key guys, but very few people say, I can't wait to do another podcast. I can't wait to post again. I can't wait to let everybody know what I'm doing today. I can't wait to share what my food was today, or that I went to the beach, or that I did whatever. Not everybody's doing that when it comes to business. So if you can just get that market share of just posting what you're doing or share what you're doing and create content, those little things matter over time. My wife was at one of our kids' soccer thing, and someone goes, "My gosh, I saw something that you're doing. Is Gabe building that building over there?" Yeah. Okay, cool. And they drove by the building. Oh yeah, I saw his sign. Oh my gosh. And the sign with the what it's going to turn into be. All those things matter. It's just one big ecosystem you're trying to create, and there's only so much time. So what's the thing that can scale your time the most?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's kind of a lot of the reason why we decided to do this podcast is we get to tell people what we're doing, and our goal is to build a commercial real estate portfolio to support our life. And I feel like there's a lot of people who want to do that. I mean, financial freedom is kind of a buzzword, but there's a lot of people who want to acquire real estate and build wealth for their families, and to do, spend time how they want to spend time. And that's kind of what we want to do. So we're like, why don't we do a podcast talking about that and hopefully document our journey? We started this podcast, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, maybe. And,
about 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months. And since then we've went under contract on a property, it fell out of contract. And then we got our first commercial property under contract together, which we're closing on next month. So hopefully, over time, people can look over the journey and see kind of what we're doing. But most importantly, we're trying to help other people do that by talking to people like you,
Right.
who've already, you've already made it and you've done really well and been successful. And we're getting to meet great people like you all the time. So yeah, it's just powerful. It's a powerful tool.
It is a great tool, and you're always growing. And the fear that people have is that I hear it quite a bit. You guys might hear it also. If well, man, someone's gonna, whatever, they're gonna judge what you do, or they're gonna, whatever you're doing, or they're not gonna like what you do, or whatever. And it's really to each its own. Like, so what, you know? Um, I mean, there's some stuff now that I know now that I won't change my character. I'm not going to change what I'm doing towards it. I'm not going to change how I work in some of the areas, because I got 3 kids that I just love hanging out with. I got my family structure the way I want it to be working. And, just the things we do together, the stuff I'm teaching them how to do. And so it's a continual push in one direction, and you don't want to have that outside noise, but you're going to hear it at some point, but you just keep on pushing. Because I was telling my daughter the other day, because she was on her way to one of the games, I was like, hey, your team needs you to be 100%, even if it bothers them, because what's going to happen is that, like during practices and whatnot, what happens is, if as you do that, that helps them become better, because so they need you to be you more than like they really, so your group of people really need you to go do this podcast, Graham, because that's your group of people, and they need to see that win of going, man, he did this. It's been a month and a half, and you got 2 deals on the contract, 1 bust out, but 1's going to close. That's a 50% ratio. No one has that, like that's better than most of your clients.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're excited about that one. It's kind of scary, but we got to do it. Got to do the first commercial deal to get many more done. So
already looking at another one.
Yeah. Well, so talk to us a little bit about you touched on it briefly, but the Facebook community. Did you build that, or did your partner build that and then you joined in on it? But I remember me and Jesse were looking at deals in the community, and then he had sent me something. It was like a shopping center and all seller finance. And then I realized after we talked, I was like, wait, Gabe made that group, and it was so massive. Right. I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's massive now. Mark has done an amazing job with the team. I helped him out build it, but now it's on its own. It's just running. He has a book. He really promotes it the most. He does such a great job with it. And it really just came out of a necessity of us really connecting with the whole world, right, in that space. And so it's branded right, it's marketed right, it's done a great job. And you can get in there and you'll get bombarded with all types of stuff. So, just all types. So, yeah. And so basically, I didn't know what you wanted to hear about that, but it was just, grassroots stuff. You don't know what's going to really take, but I do know that engagement really matters. And it's not engagement on having people engage with you. And that's the fallacy. You hear so many great podcasts and great people going, man, I was connecting with my own tribe of people for 2 years before anyone even knew who I was, So there's back end messengers and stuff like that I get all the time. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes most of the time I'm apologizing for never, contacting right away, because I'm just like, I am so sorry I missed this. It just gets lost in the threads or lost in my messenger. And so, but Mark is a genius when it comes to that. I'm like, man, what do you got going on right now? He goes, I'm just, hanging out, talking to people, and, doing all my stuff. And I'm like, man, you get so much done from his Facebook group and messenger and his team. It's pretty fun. It's cool to watch.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way. I don't have a big following at all. But on Instagram, I feel like every day I'm checking in on Instagram DMs and stuff, because I'm starting to get a lot of traction and business there. And it's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. People are going to kind of hate on what you're doing or talk about, oh, you're posting all this stuff on social media, but it's directly impacting my business. So I don't really care. And I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that you're saying you were doing?
So we've got the podcast we're doing, we're taking the clips and putting that on social media. I've done a couple of videos where I've done like day in the life. And then other than that, I just try, like you said, just try to post what I'm doing every single day. I think me and Jesse both have a goal of posting once a day. So whether it's like a day in the life video or just like a tweet or quote that we saw, or, picture me and my kids, just trying to, it's like building a personal brand at the same time. Cause we're trying to just let people know. And when people look at my Instagram, I want them to see like I'm in commercial real estate. I love my family. I'm a believer. I like to do fun outdoor stuff. That's kind of like post stuff that, is me. And that's kind of the goal. And the more people see that, hopefully if they're in commercial real estate, like, oh, well, this guy likes, he's big on family and he likes to do outdoor stuff. Like I'm going to contact him about whatever it may be, whether it's investing in real estate or brokerage or
plenty of people, man. And that's one of the things that the thing that gets me the most is sometimes they're not outdoors people. Like you're just going, it's just one of the 5 or the 4 things that you're putting out there. So you have these 4, I use 3, but really it's 4 things that you can post on, right? That's really simple. That's your niche and you're always doing it. Right. And so, there's people that don't do the things I do, don't see, we have nothing in common, but it might be one thread, which is a friend of a friend, or it might just be, someone they connect with, or someone that said, hey, that one building or that one thing or that one family. Yeah, that family. Yeah, that's that family that we met at the soccer field. Or that's, hey, who else went on that vacation? So-and-so, man, did they, man, I need to get a hold of them or whatever. And then they go, oh, I didn't know Graham was doing this commercial thing over here. Oh my gosh, my husband is the financer for this building of whatever. Oh my gosh. And then you're like, that's how this world works. Right. So I was at a property yesterday and we're trying to get some information on the plotting and stuff of it while we're out there. And I guess you could say the foreman of the shop. So this is for an oil and gas company and they're building a new shop, or they're moving their old plant to a new place. And the foreman was out there because he's going to be the one telling the guys what to do. I'm like, what do you think? Does this fit? Yeah. Older gentleman, older than me. And we're looking at our phones, land ID, all these different things that we had. And I'm like, man, I can't see when this ends and what's the plot next to us and stuff. And he goes, hold on a second. His wife does all the surveys in the area for this title company. And so I'm like your wife? He's like, yeah, hold on. My wife will help us get all that stuff. So now I have a contact. This is 2 counties away from me, by the way. So this took me 2 hours to get to. So I won't ever just go there and hang out at a networking event or anything like that to meet that lady. But now I know her. So if I ever have a need for something like that in that area for land, she is now one of my contacts, and easier to answer the phone. Hey, I worked with your husband on so-and-so. Oh yeah, I remember that. And then that's now your relationship. And if you can learn how to culture that, culture that relationship, just keep on, or nurture it, nurture the relationship. That's a contact that remembers you. And it's the same thing with social media. It's the same thing with oh yeah, you're the one who went on that vacation over there. Yeah. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And actually sitting here thinking about it, me and you, we met in an event in Orlando, and it was we talked for maybe 2 minutes. We were in the car, riding to that dinner they had. Yep. But somehow I think you had gotten connected to me through social media or something. And then you reach back out regarding social media stuff, and that's what we started talking about.
Yeah, we know each other really well because of social media. It is not because we took a Uber ride together. The Uber ride, though, was the doorway.
Yeah.
And that's what people misunderstand, is that sometimes the doorway is that first contact, right? If you were a jerk to me, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't want to talk to that guy.
Yeah.
Right. But you weren't. We had a good conversation talking about, whatever, CRMs or something. I can't remember what it was about. But so, that doorway is open, and then the refresher of going, oh yeah, that door is open, of that contact. But it was from me seeing something you did with the team. And I'm like, hey, Keith does pretty good video.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, Jesse, we're getting close to an hour here. Did you have any last questions for Gabe?
Yeah, I did. So for those that are listening to the podcast that are very, very new to real estate. They're not really sure maybe what they want to do. Um, would you jump straight into commercial real estate as a broker, or maybe even as an investor, or would you start if you were going to start over, would you start in residential or
I
commercial?
would have started in commercial if I knew how fun it. I love this industry. I love the commercial side of things. So
Awesome.
I'll tell you the truth. Like I was moving more into commercial, and I had one friend that freaking discouraged the crap out of me. And it wasn't like a hard beating. It was just like a small repetitive thing. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Like I can't believe I listened to that guy. Seriously. So if you like that type of stuff, if you like getting into the numbers and spreadsheets and contacting with people and doing that type of world, and it just kind of connects with you, then jump in, go work as an intern. I know guys that come out like there. You guys probably know a lot more than me in Raleigh that come straight out of college into commercial. Um, but I think one of the things right now in this current market, you have to understand cash flow and what cash flow does for your family and for your lifestyle and what you're doing. So you have to move very fast because you don't have that much time. So you think you do. If they're younger, you might be thinking that you have more time, but you really don't. Because you have to get your market share, you have to get your name, your brand, and everything in a small portion of time. Because not only are you competing with other people, but you're competing against your own timeline to make sure that it's going to give you the return. Because we all have there's timelines that we have for everything. Like I know so many people that peter out just in single family because they didn't accomplish the things they needed to do and they just drug it out, right? Because you have to embrace some part of the suck of the industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like some of it is making a bunch of cold calls, or some of it is just doing grinder work. I'm not sure I'm going to get this other deal that I went to go look at for these people, but it's going to lead into something else for sure. I know that. But yesterday might have just been a day of just running around making phone calls and spending 5 hours on the road there and back and
Yeah.
everything else. But that's part of the suck to get to the next place. The next place is I have the contacts, I have the people, I have friends, I have a network, I have finances, and I know how to acquire deals. Well, that's all you need. What else do you need? So you guys are going through it now. So once you do that, you just rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so excited for this first deal, because I told Jesse, and I was talking to this with my wife. I was like, I don't think you understand. Like, once we get this first one done, like we're going after it. Like, we're going to try to do a
Yeah.
bunch.
Give me time to go.
And because once you figure out the system and the process and how to take it down, where the money,
What industry, what class is it?
this one's industrial. It's a 6,000 square foot industrial building. And the Triad, so it's about an hour and 20 minutes from us, but it's a good market. It's growing and there's a lot of demand for it.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you guys have
Yeah.
a good. The whole state is doing great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I mean, pretty much every city in North Carolina, like Wilmington, Charlotte, Asheville, even Raleigh, Durham,
Yeah.
Greensboro, they're all doing very well. So, yeah,
Even the cities in between them.
yeah, even the
Yeah,
little
and
cities.
it sounds like there's room for growth and new development stuff at the same time. That's kind of like where we are, Northern Houston. So it's tons of room for like new development, tons of room for new development, and then you just have to go down an hour and you have some older stuff that you can rehab.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's exciting. I'm excited for you guys. That's it's crazy to be part of it because we had to go do some core samples and we had to tear some dirt up to lay it down or go back over it again to get the pad set up. And there's some stuff I didn't even know. Like I didn't even know that had to happen. And one guy gave us wrong information. So we had to go and reset the pad before we even laid down the foundation twice. And the second time we didn't need to do it, but we did it anyways. So it was just, stuff you learn as you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's key. Like, I think a lot of people, they don't take that jump into commercial or even into real estate in general because there's so much that they feel like they don't know, and they're not willing to step out and learn it as they go, like you just mentioned.
I think you guys are going to do great because I have seen, and you probably have also, Graham, just being around. There's a generation. I always wondered, like, how can guys be involved? I actually thought that's why commercial brokers weren't doing that great because they weren't part of a lot of great projects of their own or something. And I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of sounds like a job. but I'm definitely more entrepreneur, and I've looked at this in a way of saying, hey, this is an avenue to get into another place, and you're feeding off of the exhaust fumes of what you're doing, and it's literally a game changer if you allow it to be. And you have a great model with City and what they've done, right, and how they've gone about doing it all, and the team and how they built it out. So this is a great model, and not a lot of people have the guts to do it, or the backing, or if you can make 2 phone calls and get your answers, you're good. Like that's amazing. And that's what I think, Graham, most people don't understand. And Jesse, for younger people, you want to get yourself to a place where you can make 2 text messages or 2 phone calls and you have the answer. If you can get there, you could do anything.
That's good.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you shared so much great knowledge, with just everything, because you have so many businesses. I feel like you're obviously successful in time management and seller financing and all stuff. So this is super valuable. Where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm all over. When I say all over, you can find me on Instagram, just Gabe Rodarte. I'm pretty easy, simple. I'm on Facebook. You can just look me up on Facebook. I guess you have to follow me now because I'm out of room. And then you can find us on our different groups on seller financing homes. We're on there, and that's basically the main seller financing, and then creative financing. Just look me up, YouTube it. You'll find all types of.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Gabe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, this has been fun, guys.
Absolutely.
It's been great to meet you.